I will try to focus today on the water challenges in Europe. Carla was talking about the international aspect, and with a high focus on technology. We as EurEau, we are the European Federation of Water Services. So I will mostly focus on the role of utilities and maybe what are the most important challenges for utilities. How we work in EurEau, we have a lot of experts working in drinking water, wastewater, for economic and legal aspects, and some of them are also joining forces on specific topics like water reuse. I know that water reuse is a very high topic for Spain. I will come back on that later. For quite a number of years, we have identified our main challenges. Of course, protecting the vulnerable resources is key. The value of water in the circular economy, I will come back on that. And the source control approach for micropollutant, which has been our key strategy for years. And now we can see that there are some limits to the efficiency of this strategy. And of course, setting the right price for water services is also a key concern for us. Managing the long-term asset, like Carla was saying, we are running a lot of elephants, but elephants are not working themselves. We have to manage, we have to refurbish sometimes, we have to do a lot of work to maintain them in operation, and in a very fast changing environment, we need to adapt also the elephant to new challenges. When we look at the EU legislation and the water services, of course, the water is a very highly regulated sector. We have the Groundwater Directive, the Water Framework Directive, the EQS Directive, the Basin Water Directive, the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive. Of course, we are also concerned by the fertilizer regulation, by the Water Framework Directive, and of course by water reuse. And also a lot of other legislation which are key for us. You can see the CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy, the REACH, which deals with all what at the end becomes a pollutant in the water sector, but the first place is used by industry, by us as individuals at home. So the European water legislation is in a constant evolution. And in fact, this year, we had a number of, last year, sorry, in 2018, we had a number of proposals which were put on the table by the European Commission on drinking water, on reuse, and also on CAP. The single-use plastic directive was adopted late 2018. The fertilizer regulation was adopted also last year. And we have a number of other pieces of legislation who are just starting in the evaluation process. The Water Framework Directive for already a few years, the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, which is absolutely key for our water services. And also the other one you can see on the slide. So within EurEau, we are engaged with all the different stakeholders, being the European Commission, being the European Parliament, being the other stakeholders at the European level, to try to figure out what could be the best solution in the evolution of those legislation for water services. Sometimes it's difficult to see how things are going. The pharmaceutical strategy is on the table for now 4 years. And the publication of this strategy is postponed every 6 months for 6 months more. So we still expect this pharmaceutical strategy for 2019. And the River Basin Management Plan, which is the evaluation of the efficiency of the Water Framework Directive, has just been published 2 days ago. So next round will be for 2021. And the last one is supposed to be on 2027. And we know that most of our European countries will not meet the target that are set at this time. So there will probably be some additional time to deal with that. To come back on what Carla was saying, there is an increasing pressure on water services. Of course, water resources are limited. And the good thing for Spain is that last year, most of the European countries have suffered of a very important drought. So even the Nordic countries have decreased their yield by sometimes 70% because of lack of water. So that means that even the Netherlands, the Germany, who were, or Nordic countries which were quite opposed or very reluctant to the reuse of treated wastewater, they are now realizing that it could be a good solution also for them. But this means that we need to have more users, and that's what also Carla was saying. We can deliver a different quality for different users. But we are still being pressured with a lot of pollution. Nitrate and pesticides remains the two most important pollution of groundwater resources. But nitrate and pesticide, we know them for a long time. We have been engaging discussion with the agriculture sector for a long time. But now we have new types of pollution. They are called very often pollutant of emerging concern. But in fact, they are emerging for such a long time that they are not really new for us. Of course, we have been heard a lot about microplastics for the last maybe 12 or 18 months or 2 years, but we have also not a lot of concern with pharmaceuticals, with the antibiotic microbial resistant AMR and others. We come back on that. Climate change. Of course, we have two kinds of pressures: drought, not enough water, and flooding, too much water. And a lot of differences between the geographical situations. So our objective as utilities is to maintain access to good quality water for drinking water supply and other users. One of the very big challenge for water utilities is affordability. That means that we need to have a reasonable price so that people are able to pay their water bill. So there is a real concern about the water bill, and there was 3 years ago now an initiative from the European level to try to minimize the pressure on water cost, water bills. We have a lot of pressure also on new requirements because if we have new pollutant in the water cycle, that means that water utilities have to sometimes implement a new level of treatment to deal with micropollutant, either at drinking water level or at wastewater level. Affordability, in fact, we as utilities, we have done a lot, and in most of European countries, there are affordability mechanisms that are meant to give support to the people who have difficulties to pay their water bill. But keep the level of water services at affordable price for all citizen is absolutely important. And then, because we probably are reaching the best possibility of the existing tools, we, as EurEau, we are trying to promote the extended producer responsibility. This is a mechanism which already exists in the solid waste field. You know that the producer of plastic bags are responsible for the end of life of those bags or anything. And now we would like to explore new way of financing the new requirements water utilities are asked for. It could be a way to finance infrastructure, a new level of treatments, and also at the same time to try to stimulate the producers to change their product and to look for less damaging product for the environment or for public health when those products are fine in the environment. So for us, it would be a fair way to implement the polluter pays principle, which is one of the key principles of the Water Framework Directive, and for all the EU legislations since the beginning, but which have very high difficulties to be implemented in the water cycle. And why extended producer responsibility? Because for us, this means that the producers are responsible for collecting and disposing the used product. Sometimes it can be also effective for water pollutants. And it's also a way to have a better knowledge on who is responsible for the pollution and to engage the producer responsibility to have a better control on his own strategy in regards to environmental goals. So for us, the extended producer responsibility could be a complementary tool to the control at source approach and to keep pressure on polluters. This is a project we have together with the European Commission, with the OECD right now, and we will work on that for the months to go. Circular economy. I agree with Scala. We can do a lot of things, especially with the wastewater. We know that the wastewater can be reused as treated wastewater. Again, it's a number of applications in Spain and in all southern countries, but probably tomorrow in also northern countries. We can have either direct use of sewage sludge for agriculture most of the time. We can also have compost. It's another way to improve the quality of the soils. We can digest the sludge and we can create and produce methane, which is a biogas, can be injected in the grid. We can also recover phosphorus. Personally, I've been asked by fertilizer industry more than 20 years ago. They came to see us and say, okay, we are going to miss phosphorus as phosphorus rocks in mines. So it could be of a high interest if the water sector could recover phosphorus. So as Scala was mentioning, we have been developing a lot of technologies to recover phosphorus. And we are able to provide fertilizer industry with a lot of recovered phosphorus. But at the same time, we had a very big concern with the public perceptions. The direct use or even the compost or the water reuse has been criticized by a number of stakeholders. And the regulation we have been discussing for the last 3-4 years with the European Commission has not been able to be voted by the European Parliament. We just have now a kind of an agreement between the Commission and the Parliament on a text which will have to be voted by the next European Assembly. We are asked to improve the control source, to reduce the number of pollutants in the water cycle. But at the same time, as soon as we improve the wastewater treatment, we have more maybe pollutant in the sludge, and then we have some limitation of the recovery of sludge by legislation. And for example, it hasn't been possible to use the sludge in the fertilizer regulation. They just accept with quite a limited limiting factors the use of phosphorus in the fertilizer regulation. So today we are, like Carla was saying, the key aspect in the circular economy is not only to have the technology, is also to build a proper business model that utilities can use to recover the cost of the investments, because if we want to recover the nitrogen, the phosphorus, or the water, it's really high capex demanding, and also operational cost. Like Carla again was saying, when there is no operation, maintenance, it is of no use to invest in new infrastructure. So we need to have a real benefit of investing in new technologies, and we need to have a market to sell our recovered product. And it is not the case right now. So new business models are really the key for us. So as a conclusion, we have a lot more pressure on water resources, not only because there are new pollutants, but also because we are monitoring much better than we were doing that 30 years ago. When the Water Framework Directive was voted in year 2000, in fact, we didn't know what was the real status of our water bodies. We now have a much better knowledge thanks to the monitoring of the last 20 years. We have more pressure on water services because of the lack of water resources, because of the climate change, etc. And we need to keep the level of our services at affordable price, which is sometimes difficult. The extended producer responsibility could be a real mean to apply producer pays principle and to keep services affordable. And for the circular economy, we definitely need to create a market for recovered material from water services. That is clearly our main challenges. Thank you.